Hi, I'm Elspeth. I am 28 years old. I live at home with my family and my two cats. I work 2 days a week at a local comic book shop, and I have a BA in Fine Art History and Anthropology from the University of Toronto with a joint program at Sheridan College. I want to talk about representation of autistic people within the organizations that are currently advocating for us. Many of these organizations are widely run and organized by parents and neurotypical volunteers. And while this is awesome that we have them around our table, it's really important that we have autistic people around the table to discuss what we would like to see moving forward. Organizations really need to include more voices of people on the autism spectrum to get a better representation of the full autism spectrum, which is very broad and includes many different cultural backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, religious backgrounds, sexual identities, gender identities, economic statuses, and that's very important to get as many different people as you can so that you can see what that full spectrum is like, so that you can better hear from that full spectrum what they think is needed moving forward, what is most important to be acted on first, where money should be spent, how resources should be spent, what experiences are, and not just from a second party, but right from people on the spectrum themselves, what we want to see happen, what we feel is most important. And so it's really important that we get included. If we had an organization that was working to advocate for women's health or women's rights, and the organization was run largely by people who identified as men, could we really say that that organization is really being successful? Would women want to work with that organization? Some of the barriers are that it's actually rather difficult to find people who want to be a part of an organization, to track people down. People may be coming from long distances. Ontario, just as one province, is very big. How do we get people from far out communities to come in and be a part of an organization, or to lend their voices and lend their time? How do we accommodate people? This is a big one, because people say, well, folks on the autism spectrum have difficulty communicating, so they do need people to speak for them. And while this isn't entirely untrue, we do have individuals who do benefit from having an advocate, or do need to use adaptive technology to communicate. That adaptive technology is there, and there are lots of means that people can communicate, even if they can't vocalize in words what they want to say. People may be able to type, people may be able to write. There may be programs that can speak out typed word for you. There may be picture card communications, the PECS program, that allows people to communicate with picture cards what they need or what they want. And I think it's rather difficult for us to sit back and say, well, it's too hard to include people on the autism spectrum. It's too difficult. Well, yeah, life is difficult. Sometimes things are difficult, but that doesn't make them less worth doing. And by not including people, we're repeating this narrative that people with disabilities don't know what they need and can't speak for themselves. They need other people to tell them what to do and what's best for them, rather than people with disabilities being able to say, I know what's best for me. I know what I want. I know what I want to see happen. If organizations that are advocating for us are repeating this narrative, if even our advocates are repeating the narrative that only people who are professionals, only neurotypicals, only non-autistic people can speak for autism, then how can we expect the larger population to change? How can we expect society to change if even the leading organizations are not willing to change this? So it's really important that these barriers be set aside, that we deal with this and say, it may be difficult, but it is worth doing, and we can't risk losing the many different voices and the many different narratives and stories that are out there. So what do organizations get out of it, besides it just being the right thing to do to include people on the spectrum? For one, it's efficiency. So if you have people directly from the source, directly from the population that you're speaking for, saying, this is what we want, this is what we need to move on first, this is what we would like to see happen, these are some of the challenges we're facing, that means that your actions are going to be more efficient. It means that you're going to get work done right where that population says that it needs to be done in. And that means that your money, your resources, your time are going to be better spent. So it's about efficiency. The other is that it's about the confidence of the population you're serving. If I, a person on the spectrum, see that you, an organization, are utilizing people on the spectrum, that you're hearing our voices, that you're including us, that we are being allowed to sit around that table and have our voices heard, then I'm going to say, yes, this is an organization that is really speaking up for me and my needs. And that means I'm going to tell other people and say, hey, that organization is good people, and we need to support them by going to their programs, by volunteering with them, by donating time and money, by just positive word of mouth. And that's so important. If an organization is not meeting that population that they're serving, if they are butting heads with the population that they're serving, that's not a good place for an organization to be. And you're going to get people who say, hey, don't work with them, don't attend their stuff, don't volunteer with them, don't spend time on them, because they're not advocating for us. We're not going to support them because they're not supporting us. And that is the sign of a failing organization that doesn't have that. That confidence of the people they're serving. We need to honor people's voices. We need to hear what people have to say. It cannot just be the narrative that professionals know what's best, or non-disabled people know what disabled people need, and only they can speak for autistic people. And that's something that we see across, not just in the autism community, but across the disabled community. The idea of who is the professional, who is able to speak for the disabled community, and when, and under what circumstances. And so this needs to change, because we need to have that better representation. We need to have voices heard. We cannot risk losing out on the many different experiences. And organizations need this too.